You are cold. Not the cold of weather, the cold of a room with no windows, a folding chair, and a man across a table who has not introduced himself and does not intend to. The room smells like concrete and something chemical, solvent maybe, or disinfectant. It is the same smell, you will later understand. In this work, they are often the same. You do not know exactly how you arrived here. That is not entirely true. You know the sequence of events. You simply cannot identify the single moment when the path became irreversible. It did not feel irreversible at the time. It never does. The man across the table has a file. The file has your name on it, but the name on the file is not your name. This is your introduction to the central operating principle of the next decade of your life. Nothing that identifies you will be accurate, and everything accurate about you will be kept somewhere you cannot access. He slides a single page across the table. No letterhead, no signature block. 11 lines of text describing a financial arrangement and a set of operational expectations. The language is contractual without being a contract. You understand, reading it, that this document would mean nothing in any legal context, and that this is precisely the point. You sign it. Not because you are coerced, because you have already been coerced by the previous 4 years. The discharge, the contract security work in places your family was not allowed to know about, the gradual narrowing of what you were willing to do and what you could be paid to do. The man across the table did not create your willingness, he simply found it. You were given a phone, a small one, older model, the kind that does not retain data in any recoverable form. You were given a number to call when the phone receives a specific type of message. You were given nothing else. You walk out of the building into daylight. You have just started a career that has no title, no office, no colleagues, no HR department, and no retirement plan. You do not know this yet with the full weight of its meaning. You know it technically. Technically, you have always known things that you did not yet feel. The first month, nothing happens. You keep the phone charged. You maintain your cover employment, a private security consultation registered in Delaware that processes 2 legitimate invoices per quarter, enough to explain an income, not enough to attract scrutiny. You work out in the mornings because you have always worked out in the mornings, and because the body must stay functional or everything else is theoretical. You wait. Waiting is the first skill they do not tell you about. The entry-level experience in this work is not violence. It is patience, calibrated to the edge of anxiety, maintained over days and then weeks without degrading your cognitive function. Most people cannot do this. The ones who cannot do not last past the first assignment, because the first assignment requires waiting, and by the time the action arrives, they are already depleted. You last. The phone receives its message on a Thursday in November. You call the number. A voice gives you a city, a date, and a hotel name. The voice does not give you a target. The target comes separately, through a different channel, 24 hours later. You look at the photograph. You note the details. Age, approximate. Build, habits as described in the 3-paragraph brief that accompanies the photograph. You do not think about who this person is to anyone else. This is not a moral decision in that moment. It is a functional one. The information you need is specific. Other information interferes with processing the specific information. You have trained for years in compartmentalization. This is compartmentalization. You book a flight under a name that is not yours. You are on your way. Phase 2, the ascent. The first assignment takes 4 days of preparation and 9 seconds of execution. You do not process the 9 seconds until much later, and when you do, it is in the form of technical review rather than emotional accounting. What worked, what was unnecessary, what you would modify. It is the same review you performed after training exercises for 6 years. The framework is identical. This is not an accident. The framework was selected because it is the one your nervous system already accepts. You fly home under a third name. The payment arrives in 4 parts over 6 weeks, routed through 2 intermediary accounts that your contact established before the assignment. The total is $41,000. You note the amount, not because you are satisfied or dissatisfied, but because you need to understand the pricing structure of the market you have entered. The second assignment pays $41,000. The third pays $41,000. You begin to understand that the initial rate is a fixed assessment period. They are pricing your consistency, not your performance. After 6 completed assignments, the rate moves. It moves to $68,000. The increase is not explained. It does not need to be. You understand you have passed a threshold. By the end of the second year, you have completed 11 assignments in 8 countries. You have used 4 passports. You have not used the same city for accommodation. You have not contacted anyone from your previous life in 14 months. This last fact did not require a decision. It required a series of smaller non-decisions. A call you did not return, a message you read and did not answer, the gap between contacts extending until the contacts stopped coming. Absence, maintained consistently, communicates its own finality. You do not mourn this, you note it. In the third year, the structure changes. You are introduced through a sequence of intermediary communications to a coordinating layer, not a handler exactly, not an employer, a logistics architecture, someone who manages sourcing, vetting, and payment for a roster of contractors. You are told you are one of 11. This number is offered as context, not consolation. The coordinating layer means cleaner operations, better intelligence ahead of assignments, structured exit protocols. Your income increases again, this time to a base of $92,000 per assignment with variable additions based on complexity factors, security detail presence, timeline compression, geographic difficulty. In the fourth year, you complete 7 assignments. Your gross income is $840,000. You live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Lisbon. The apartment has good light and a view of a street you walk every morning at the same time. The walk is not for pleasure. It is a behavioral pattern you maintain because humans with regular, legible patterns attract less investigative interest than those without them. You are performing normalcy the way other people perform their jobs. You have 4 neighbors. You know their schedules. You know this because knowing the schedule of everyone adjacent to your residence is something your training installed as a reflex. One of your neighbors is a woman who teaches at a secondary school. She nods when you pass in the corridor. You nod back. You have not learned her name. This, too, is not a decision. It is the operation of a system you have built without formally designing it. By the 5th year, you stop counting assignments individually. You track them in aggregate, the way a surgeon might track procedures, volume, distribution, complexity category. The individual instances recede into the pattern. This is not callousness. It is cognitive economy. The mind retains what is operationally useful and releases what is not. You have been practicing this for years. The rate now is $140,000 per assignment, base. You are ascending. You do not experience this as ascent. You experience it as continuation. Phase 3, the system. There are rules. They were never written down for you. You assembled them from observation, from the outcomes of decisions made by people whose errors you were briefed on, and from the internal logic of a system that is ruthlessly consistent, even if it is never articulated. Rule 1. You do not develop any profile that connects your income to your identity. This means the financial architecture must be maintained with the same discipline as the operational one. You employ an accountant in Geneva who asks no questions and charges for this restraint accordingly. His fee is $22,000 per year. This is not an expense. It is infrastructure. Rule 2. You do not operate in your country of residence, ever. The buffer of geography is not sufficient on its own, but combined with documentation discipline, it reduces the investigative surface area to something manageable. You have crossed 43 international borders in 6 years. You have been asked secondary screening questions 4 times. You passed each time because the legend, the constructed personal history behind each identity, was built to answer the specific questions asked at specific crossing points. Rule 3.
You do not form professional relationships that extend beyond their functional necessity. Your contact in the coordinating layer communicates through a messaging protocol that uses rotating encryption keys. You have spoken on the telephone twice in 6 years. You have never met in person. You know this person's voice and their precision with language. You know nothing else. And this boundary was established by them, which told you everything you needed to know about how seriously the system takes its own continuity. Rule 4. You do not use the same method consecutively. This rule is operational, but it is also something more. It prevents the formation of a signature. Investigators build cases on patterns. Patterns are the result of habit. Habit is the result of comfort. You are not comfortable. You are not meant to be comfortable. Comfort is how the system loses assets. There are also the unofficial systems within the system. The coordinating layer has its own hierarchy, tiers of contractors differentiated by complexity, capacity, and reliability score. You are told at year 6 that you are in the upper tier. You are told this not as praise, but as information relevant to your upcoming assignment parameters, which will be more complex than previous assignments and will pay accordingly.
You have not had a relationship that extended past 1 month in 6 years. Not because you lack interest, because every early stage of connection involves disclosure, and disclosure is not something your system allows. You have sat across tables from people you found genuinely compelling, a journalist in Prague who asked questions that deserved real answers, a doctor in Cape Town who laughed in a way that did something to the room, and you have performed a version of yourself that was adjacent to true and watched the connection form around the performance instead of around you. This is sustainable for 1 month, perhaps 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, the performance requires maintenance that is too complex to run in parallel with operational requirements, and you allow the connection to dissolve. You do not engineer the dissolution, you simply stop performing. And in the absence of the performance, the other person eventually understands that whoever they were connecting with is not available. You watch this happen with the same observational flatness you bring to everything. Your sister sends you a message in year 8. It has been 2 years since your last contact. The message says she has had a child, a boy. She includes a photograph. You look at the photograph for a long time. You respond with a message that is warm in its construction and absent in its specificity. You do not provide a phone number. You do not suggest a visit. You close the message and return to the preparation document for an upcoming assignment. You are not made of stone. This characterization, when it appears in the operational psychology literature you occasionally review, the cold, affect-free contractor as cultural archetype, has always struck you as both partially accurate and fundamentally misunderstanding the mechanism. You feel. The feeling simply occurs in a separate processing channel from the one that makes decisions. The channels do not communicate in real time. The grief, if that is the right word, for your sister's child, for the person who is now an uncle in documentary terms only, that arrives later, at a remove, compressed into something you sit with for an evening and then file. Filed things do not disappear. You know this. They accumulate in a partition of your cognition that you have learned not to examine during operational periods. You have been in an operational period for most of the last 8 years. Your body is also keeping records. The left knee that was reconstructed in year 3, correctly by a private orthopedic surgeon in Zurich who billed under a consulting code, is reliable but speaks now in certain weather. A low-grade complaint that is below the threshold of impairment but above the threshold of ignorability. Your resting heart rate is 44. Your blood pressure is optimal. Your hearing in the upper registers is diminished by approximately 18% in the left ear, a consequence of a situation in year 5 that you did not handle optimally. You are 38 years old. In this work, 38 is not young. It does not happen loudly. This is the thing no one prepares you for, though you are not sure who would have prepared you or in what context. The break, when it comes quietly. It comes in a hotel room in a city you have been to twice before, at 11:40 in the evening, when you are reviewing a preparatory brief for an assignment scheduled for the following afternoon. The brief contains, as briefs always contain, a photograph. You look at the photograph. The target is a man, 61 years old, heavyset. The photograph is taken at what appears to be a family gathering, someone's garden, soft summer light, the blurred edge of other people at the periphery. The man is laughing in the photograph. This is not unusual. Photographs selected for operational briefs are often candid, taken without the subject's awareness, and candid photographs frequently capture people mid-expression. You have looked at many photographs. You look at this one longer than usual. It is not the laugh. It is something about the periphery, the blurred edge of other people. You find yourself, and this is new, this noticing, you find yourself wondering about the periphery, who they are to him, who he is to them, whether the laughter is the kind that comes from a long relationship with someone or the kind that is polite and situational. You put the brief down. You sit with this for a moment that extends past the point of productivity. In 9 years, you have not sat with the periphery. You have processed targets as the operational center of their own briefs and nothing beyond. The system works because its participants accept this framing and operate within it consistently. The target is the target. The information in the brief is the information that is operationally relevant. The rest is noise. You are sitting with the noise. This is not a crisis of conscience. You have had those, briefly in the earlier years, and they passed through the same processing channel as other discomforts and were resolved the same way. Acknowledged, categorized, filed. What is happening now is different. What is happening now is that the filing system is full. There is no dramatic moment, no revelation, no voice, just the arithmetic of a decade of filed material reaching a volume that the partition can no longer hold cleanly. And the sense, not a feeling exactly, more a structural recognition that you have been living inside a machine and have, for a long time, understood yourself as part of the machine's function rather than as a person subject to the cost of the machine. The cost, until this moment, was always abstract, tallied in categories, relationships reduced, freedom conditional, future probabilistic. These were acceptable parameters. They were the parameters you agreed to in that concrete room at the beginning. But you did not agree to this. You could not have agreed to this because you did not know what this was. You could not have known that the accumulated weight of a decade of filed material would eventually exceed the architecture designed to contain it at 11:40 in a hotel room looking at the blurred edge of other people in a photograph. You close the brief. You sit in the silence of the room. The air conditioning cycles. Traffic moves outside the window. You are here. The city is continuing without reference to what is happening in this room. The world is indifferent to the specific texture of this moment, which is somehow the most clarifying fact you have encountered in years. You pick up the phone, not the operational one, the personal one you maintain for the performance of having a personal life, and you look at it for a long time. You do not call anyone. There is no one to call, not because you are without connection in the world. Your sister exists, the accountant in Geneva exists, a former colleague from your military years who does not know what you have been doing and occasionally sends messages that you respond to with careful brevity. They exist, but the call you want to make is not possible because the person it would require you to be, transparent, located in your own experience, speaking without a constructed layer between your interior and your voice, that person has not been available for 9 years. You put the phone down. You know, with the flat certainty of someone who processes information for a living, that the assignment scheduled for tomorrow afternoon will not be completed by you. This is the shattering, not a sound, a silence, one door closing in the architecture of your operating self, quietly, completely, in a way that will not reopen. You do not complete the assignment. You send a message through the operational channel, single line. The language is the language of the protocol, neutral, procedural, final. You are withdrawing. The coordinating layer has 36 hours to reallocate. You will return the advance. The specifics of the financial unwinding will follow through the established channel. You do not explain. Explanation is not part of the protocol. The protocol, in this instance, is the last useful gift the system gives you, the ability to leave without a conversation you are not equipped to have. You check out of the hotel the following morning.
You take the first flight available to Lisbon, not because Lisbon requires your presence, but because it is the city where your things are, and your things are the only remaining physical evidence that you have been a continuous person occupying a continuous space across some number of years. You sit in the apartment and look at it. There is very little. This was always intentional. A go bag has been packed and repacked so many times that it is essentially permanent. The furniture was furnished by the landlord. The kitchen contains the items required to prepare 4 specific meals, selected for nutritional efficiency in a period of high operational activity. You look at all of it. You begin the process of exiting. The exit takes 4 months, not because it is dramatic, it is procedurally straightforward, the infrastructure built years ago for exactly this eventuality. The financial untangling requires 6 conversations with the Geneva accountant and 2 with a specialist in cross-jurisdictional asset structuring. The documentation is consolidated and the excess identities are retired. The operational phone is destroyed according to the protocol. The coordinating layer does not contact you after the initial withdrawal. This was expected. In the system, retired assets are not pursued. They are simply removed from the active roster and replaced. Replacement takes, you later learn, approximately 3 weeks. You move to the property you purchased in year 4, in a country where the spring comes early and the administrative infrastructure moves slowly enough that a man with a moderate income and a quiet lifestyle attracts no systematic attention. You establish a simple daily pattern. You walk in the mornings. You read in the afternoons. You cook the same 4 meals you have always cooked. Some mornings, it is very quiet. You do not fill the quiet. The quiet is where you are now, and you have spent enough years running from interior experience to understand that running further would simply mean running, without destination, for the rest of whatever time remains. You sit with the quiet instead. Not comfortably, but consistently. Consistency was always your core competency. Your sister sends you a message in year 8. It has been 2 years since your last contact. The message says she has had a child, a boy. She includes a photograph. You look at the photograph for a long time. You respond with a message that is warm in its construction and absent in its specificity. You do not provide